Good evening and welcome to another edition of Mic'd Up. This Wednesday, Louisiana football heads to West Virginia for a primetime showdown with Marshall on ESPN2. For a preview, we are now joined by WSAZ Sports Director Keith Morehouse out of Huntington, West Virginia. Keith, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Seth, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Keith. Now, let's start with the Thundering Herd. They are a team that Cajun fans are very familiar with after their showdown in the New Orleans Bowl last season. But Marshall, like UL, looks a lot different this season. What's the biggest difference you've noticed?
I guess really kind of offensively, Seth, they've been really good defensively, and they have a lot of the same pieces on defense they had last year. New quarterback and Henry Columbia, transfer from Texas Tech. And, of course, their star tailback, which you guys remember last year from the New Orleans Bowl, Rasheen Ali, suffered an injury preseason, so he hasn't played. But the backup, Kalen Layburn, has, and he's a transfer from Florida State, a former five-star guy, and he's currently second in the nation in rushing. So they really haven't had any drop-off in the rushing department. Their biggest problem has been kind of a little bit of the of instability on the offensive line and the ability to protect the quarterback to give him enough time to throw. They've struggled with that since that Notre Dame win, and I think with that little mini break they've had going into this Wednesday night game, they've been trying to work on that.
Now, when it comes to UL and Marshall, do any of the coaches or players look at this game as a rematch or like getting revenge, or is the attitude more new season, new team?
I think you're right. I think it's new season, new team. The New Orleans Bowl wasn't that long ago, December. We, of course, saw you down there, and that was a spirited contest. But for Marshall, I think maybe different than U of L is this is Marshall's first year in the Sun Belt, and Coach Huff has preached to the fans and the players and the media that this is a really balanced league. It might not, by all accounts, be that much superior to Conference USA, but it looks like there are more balanced teams, and basically – he has preached, you got to bring it every week in this league or you're going to get beat. And, of course, Marshall's already lost one Sun Belt game to Troy, a really good team, by the way. And so I don't think they've gotten into this revenge thing or last year in the bowl game. I think you're right. I think it's pretty much just focused on the task at hand, which is a good Raging Cajun team.
Now, it's funny you mentioned that because Marshall picked up one of the signature wins of the college football season with the victory over Notre Dame, but of course they lost 2 straight games after that. Would you say that this team is more of the squad that beat the Fighting Irish or the one that suffered those 2 losses after?
That's a great question, and I think the coaching staff's trying to figure that out. They haven't been as effective as they were in that game. They essentially, if you saw any of it, they kind of dominated the lines of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. It wasn't one of those upsets where you go, oh, that was a fluke. Marshall went in there and really took it to them. They just haven't been able to duplicate that kind of offensive efficiency. So they're trying to find that out. And I think some of the hangover, if you will, came from, how do they handle a win like that, which is one that, is as good, or if not better, than any win in program history on the road at a fabled place like Notre Dame.
And finally, what do you think is the biggest key for Marshall if they want to take down Louisiana on Wednesday?
I think they have to be able to establish a little bit of a downfield passing game. So they haven't, their quarterbacks haven't been able to get enough time to let these routes unfurl. And so they've gone to a short passing game, but that's not as effective unless you can, give your quarterback 3-4 seconds back there to sit in the pocket. So I think that's going to be the telltale sign, because we know that they can run the ball. They have been able to run against pretty much everybody they've seen this year, at least Laybourne has. But will they be able to establish a downfield passing attack or a threat? And I think that's a key for Marshall going in.
That's Keith Morehouse, Sports Director at WSAZ in Huntington, West Virginia. Keith, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Seth. Great being with you.